This is the 7th day of the August 86 retreat. I have no questions written down. And we will read from the Zen writings of Wang Po as translated by John Blofeld. Many people here have heard these writings, talks, and dialogues over and over again. But there are also people here who may have never heard them before. So, can the mind listen openly, not stuck in the grooves of memory? May be helpful also to hear different words than what one has heard for 6 days, because grooves develop from these words. And sometimes when a new word is used, the mind may jump out of the groove and understand something directly. Something beyond the word. We will also read, after the selections of Wang Po, excerpts from the last talk given by Krishnamurti in India this year. The talks and dialogues were written down by a disciple of Wang Po's, who was a Buddhist scholar and also governor of a province of China in which the temple was situated, in which Wang Po was teaching. So he is the recorder and also the questioner. The Master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It is not green nor yellow, and it has neither form nor appearance. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void, which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there's no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking they lose it, for that is using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain it. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, it will appear before them. For this mind is the Buddha, and Buddha is all living beings. It is not the less for being manifested in ordinary beings, nor is it greater for being manifested in the Buddhas. Buddha here referring either to a being that is without limit, without self and other distinction, seeing the truth of the moment, not attached to identity. Also means truth. The word, Sanskrit word, also means awakened truth. And sometimes the word also refers in these writings to the historical being who taught for 50 years. In the readings here, words, lines, paragraphs, or pages have been left out to make what is being read as accessible as possible for looking and not just listening. Not just listening to words. If there's a listening that goes beyond words, it is no different from seeing. Or understanding. Here the questioner asks, what is the way? What is the way? And how must it be followed? It's a question, by the time we read it now, that is 1,000 years old. We're still asking the same question. What is the way, and how must it be followed? The answer is, what sort of thing do you suppose the way to be, that you should wish to follow it? Questioner: what instructions have the masters everywhere given for meditation practice and the study of the Dharma, as a Sanskrit word for truth? What instructions have the masters left for meditation practice and for the study of the truth? The reason the questions are the same is that it's the same brain that is asking the question 1,000 years ago and today. It hasn't changed. The brain that uses methods in its practical affairs, in its technology, for the technology of living, and then thinks the same methods need to be applied to find truth, which in itself is a concept in the brain. So the question was, what instructions have the masters left? And the answer is, words used to attract the dull of wit are not to be relied on. Wang Po says, the questioner says, if those teachings were meant for the dull-witted, I have yet to hear what truth has been taught to those of really high capacity. Wangpo, if they are really people of high capacity, where could they find people to follow? If they seek from within themselves, they will find nothing tangible. How much less can they find a teaching worthy of their attention elsewhere? Do not look to what is called the truth by preachers, for what sort of truth or teaching could that be? Questioner, if that is so, should we not seek for anything at all? Wangpo, by conceding this, you would save yourself a lot of mental effort. Questioner, but in this way, everything would be eliminated. There cannot just be nothing. Wangpo, who called it nothing? Who was this fellow? But you wanted to seek for something. Questioner, since there is no need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? The jump in thinking, if there's nothing to seek, therefore there's nothing. Don't we go through these processes all the time? If it is said, no goals, no motives, then well, if I have no goal and no motive, then there's nothing. And I'll fall into a depression. It's a conclusion. It's not a fact. It's not based on investigation, on finding out what there is when there is no goal and no motive, which means to detect the goal orientation of this body-mind, the motive propulsion of this body-mind. To detect it as it happens, as we said, like listening to the motor, idling, not so idly. So we repeat the question, since there's no need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? Wangpo, not to seek is to rest tranquil. Who told you to eliminate anything? Look at the void in front of your eyes. How can you produce it or eliminate it? In listening to this invitation to look at the void in front of your eyes, if one has a concept of what the void may be, then one cannot see what's in front of one's eyes, can one? One is looking for that void. Void in front of one's eyes means not looking for anything, but seeing what's there without already knowing what's there. I know it's a tree. I know it's grass. Then we don't see. Can one look void of labels, categories, remembrances? Or if labels, categories, remembrances come up, can one see that that's what they are? Productions of the brain, memory, thought. Not what's out there. That's not a production of the brain. That's there. Touching the bark of a tree. It's not bark. And it's not the void. What is it? Wang Po just said, look at the void in front of your eyes. How can you produce it or eliminate it? And the questioner says, if I could reach this Dharma, this truth, however he's using this word, would it be like the void? I don't understand this question really. Wang Po says, morning and night I have explained to you that the void is both one and manifold. I said this as a temporary expedient, but you're building up concepts from it. And the question, do you mean that we should not form concepts as human beings normally do? Do you see the kind of listening that is going on? Immediately deducing from something that is said, that what is said is you shouldn't do this, rather than what is said, which doesn't have any should in it. Just says you're building up concepts. It's a fact. And the brain takes it into its groove. You mean we shouldn't form concepts? The moment you ask, I shouldn't form concepts, you don't see that the concept is being formed, or is there on the computer screen. Wang Po says, I have not prevented you. But concepts are related to the senses, and when feeling takes place, wisdom is shut out. It means when feeling takes place and concepts are formed based on those feelings. Because to see a feeling as a feeling, that's what is. But the concept is not the feeling. The concept anger is not that complex thing raging throughout the body. Question says, then should we avoid any feeling in relation to the Dharma, to the teaching, to the truth? And Wang Po says, where no feeling arises, who can say that you're right? Here, the word feeling, I think the translation may have been reaction. Questioner says, why do you speak as though I was mistaken in all the questions I've asked your reverence? And Wang Po says, you're a man who doesn't understand what is said to him. What is all this about being mistaken? You feel the hurt in this statement. You say as though I was always wrong. In other words, listening from that self-perspective, the self-point of view. I'm right, I'm wrong. And then the hurt. All of Wang Po said, man, you got it. You just said the right thing. And the elation, and also no listening. The questioner continues, up to now you have refuted everything which has been said. You have done nothing to point out the true Dharma to us, the true teaching. Wang Po says, in the true teaching there is no confusion, but you produce confusion by such questions. What sort of true Dharma can you go seeking for? And the questioner says, since the confusion arises from my questions, what will your reverence's answer be? Wang Po, observe things as they are and don't pay attention to other people. There are some people just like mad dogs barking at everything that moves, even barking when the wind stirs among the grass and leaves. A few pages further it goes on. From all you have just said, says the questioner, mind is the Buddha, or truth. But it is not clear as to what sort of mind is meant by this mind, which is the Buddha. Wang Po, how many minds have you got? Questioner, but is the Buddha the ordinary mind or the enlightened mind? So a lot of questions coming into meetings about the enlightened mind, enlightenment. Have you given up on enlightenment? Some people say. One person said, I've talked to other people, and they say, you don't stress enlightenment anymore. You may be satisfied with people understanding themselves psychologically. This tremendous concern with enlightenment as what? A luminous goal, which in its luminosity in the mind will settle all of our problems, make us free. Question was, but is the Buddha the ordinary mind or the enlightened mind? Oh, maybe I read this already. Where on earth do you keep your ordinary mind and your enlightened mind? That's Wang Po's question. And the question says, in the teaching of the three vehicles, that's volumes of written down sermons and dialogues of the Buddha, but they were not written down until several hundred years after he died. In the teaching of the three vehicles, it is stated that there are both, the ordinary mind and the enlightenment. Why does your reverence deny it? And Wang Po says, in the teaching of the three vehicles, it clearly explained that the ordinary enlightened minds are both illusions. You don't understand. All this clinging to the idea of things existing is to mistake vacuity for the truth. Vacuity meaning vacuity of ideas, non-factuality. How can such conceptions not be illusory? Being illusory, they hide mind from you. If you would only rid yourselves of the concepts of ordinary and enlightened, you would find that there is no other Buddha than the Buddha in your own mind. You people go on misunderstanding your hold to concepts such as ordinary and enlightened, directing your thoughts outwards where they gallop around like horses. All this amounts to beclouding your own minds. As soon as thought or sensation arises, you fall into dualism. Beginningless time and the present moment are the same. There's no this and no that. To understand this truth is called complete and unexcelled enlightenment. Upon what doctrine does your reverence base these words? Why seek a doctrine? As soon as you have a doctrine, you fall into dualistic thought. Question about just now, you said that the beginningless past and the present are the same. What do you mean by that? And Wang Po says it is just because of your seeking that you make a difference between them. Can one see that? The truth of that? To seek something, you have to have some idea from the past which projects a future in which you can find it. When the past is quiet, there is no future. Then where is the division of time? When thought, which creates it, is quiet. Understands that it is the creator of time. Wang Po says, it is just because of your seeking that you make a difference between them, past and the future. If you were to stop seeking, how could there be any difference between them? Stop seeking is to be aware. If you say, as is said so much these days, then I'm in the here and now, is that also a concept? We must live in the here and now. That's a concept, isn't it? Which may give one some comfort. Because one thinks that one doesn't have to worry about the future. But living in the here and now is no attachment to thoughts, or identity, or image. Seeing them as they arise and understanding them as they arise. And not wrapped up by these thoughts like that grasshopper out there on the porch. If you saw that as a grasshopper wrapped up by a spider. By now it's probably not there anymore. Questioner says, if they are not different, why did you employ separate terms for them? Beginningless past and the present and the future. And Wang Po said, if you hadn't mentioned ordinary and enlightened, who would have bothered to say such things? Questioner says, illusion can hide from us our own mind, but up to now you have not taught us how to get rid of illusion. Wang Po says, the arising and the elimination of illusion are both illusory. The word illusory I don't find very accessible. It is sort of putting a name, a label on something. Can one see the arising of thought and see the ceasing of thought? And see that it is thought and not reality, except, as we said the other day, the reality of some electrochemical process going on in the brain. Illusion is not something rooted in reality. It exists because of your dualistic thinking. If you will only cease to indulge in opposed concepts such as ordinary and enlightened, illusion will cease of itself. And then if you still want to destroy it, wherever it may be, you will find that there is not a hair's breadth left of anything on which to lay hold. Questioner says, if there's nothing on which to lay hold, how is the Dharma to be transmitted? We won't go into that. It's too... Do you want to hear it? I've never read it. I'll read it. Wang Po says it is a transmission of mind with mind. And the questioner says, if mind is used for transmission, why do you say that mind too does not exist? And Wang Po says, obtaining nothing whatever is called mind transmission. You could say, then why call it mind transmission? Because if two people, or whatever number doesn't matter, see the same thing at the same time, and seeing that it is no thing, nothing, no thing, then what has been transmitted? From whom to whom? Because in that there is no me and you. There is no thing, not a thing. Still go on with those words, I'll read. Wang Po says, when we talk of the knowledge I may gain, he always puts I in quotation marks. When we talk of the knowledge I may gain, the learning I may achieve, my intuitive understanding, my deliverance from rebirth, my moral way of living, etc. Our successes make these concepts seem pleasant to us, but our failures make them appear deplorable. What is the use of all that? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Do not deceive yourselves with a conceptual thinking, and do not look anywhere for the truth, for all that is needed is to refrain from allowing concepts to arise, or if they have arisen, to see that they're concepts. You can't control the arising of concepts. There's thought involved in that. The concept itself, I must have no concepts. It is obvious that mental concepts and external perceptions are equally misleading, and that the way of the Buddhas is as dangerous as the way of the demons. Much later he says, let me assure you again that the Buddha dwells not in light nor sentient beings in darkness, for the truth allows no such distinctions. Buddha is not mighty nor sentient beings feeble, for the truth allows no such distinctions. Buddha is not enlightened nor sentient beings ignorant, for the truth allows no such distinctions. It is all because you take it upon yourselves to talk of explaining Zen. As soon as the mouth is opened, evils spring forth. And later he says, when a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind, and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past, not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha, for your sole concern should be, as thought succeeds thought to avoid clinging to any of them. Nor may you entertain the least ambition to be a Buddha here and now. Even if a Buddha arises, do not think of him as enlightened or deluded, good or evil. Hasten to rid yourself of any desire to cling to him. Cut him off in the twinkling of an eye. On no account seek to hold him fast, for 1,000 blocks could not stay him, nor 100,000 feet of rope bind him. I will now make luminously clear how to set about being rid of that Buddha or whatever experience one may have had of enlightenment experience or whatever. Whatever one can't give a name when there is no self. Because then the naming stops and there's no limitation which naming introduces. Now he says, consider the sunlight. You may say it is near, yet if you follow it from world to world, you will never catch it in your hands. Then you may describe it as far away, and lo, you will see it just before your eyes. Follow it, and behold, it escapes you. Run from it, and it follows you close. Can neither possess it nor have done with it. From this example you can understand how it is with the true nature of all things, and henceforth there will be no need to grieve or worry about such things. Goes on later, thus all the visible universe is the truth. So are all the sounds. Hold fast to one principle and all the others are identical. On seeing one thing you see all, depending on the seeing. If the seeing is whole, then it includes everything that's seen. On seeing one thing, you see all. On perceiving any individual's mind, you are perceiving all mind. On perceiving this mind, one perceives the human mind. We can't say this often enough because we get so trapped in identifying with our mind. That this is my mind, either my deplorable mind or my tremendously whatever mind. And with this barricading us into a little hole and not seeing that this mind is the human mind. Understanding this one understands it in everyone else. And with that, fault finding comes to an end at that moment. The moment one thinks my mind, then I find fault with someone else's mind. But if one can understand this mind, one can also understand everyone else's mind. Because they are not so different. Different circumstances, different conditionings, but always circumstances and always conditioning. He says, obtain a glimpse of one way and all ways are embraced in your vision, for there is nowhere at all which is devoid of the way. Which means there's no place to go. So can one watch the reaching, the wanting to go someplace, the greener pastures, the more alluring practices, the greater promises. always on the move, the motor always running. When your glance falls upon a grain of dust, what you see is identical with all the vast world systems with their great rivers and mighty hills. To gaze upon a drop of water is to behold the nature of all the waters of the universe. Because water is water. Whether it's here or in Russia, on Mars. I think we can grasp that better than that the mind is one human mind. Because we're not particularly identified with water. We may become identified with anything. But water we can see, whether it's here or in Lake Ontario or wherever, is water. He says, moreover, in thus contemplating the totality of phenomena, you are contemplating the totality of mind. At one later point, questioner asks, what guidance does your reverence offer to those of us who find all this very difficult to understand? Wangpo says, I have no thing to offer. I have never had anything to offer others. It is because you allow certain people to lead you astray that you are forever seeking intuition and searching for understanding. Isn't this a case of disciples and teachers all falling into the same insoluble muddle? One point he says, learn not to pay attention to any distinctions between this and that arising from your sensations, thereby purging your bodies of useless discriminations between one phenomenon and another. Which doesn't mean that one doesn't hear very clearly the difference between a bird and an airplane. It's clear. It needs no label. A child that doesn't have labels yet can still hear the difference between the sound of a bird and an airplane. And to label it is no problem either, if one understands that the label, the idea, the thought is not what it stands for. But when we are dreaming, our thoughts are so real. When we're wanting, the images are so real. Until one wakes up. And then what? Does one see what's been happening, or does one deplore having dreamt? And one is off on another dream of what one should have done rather than doing. Later, the questioner says, but how can we prevent ourselves from falling into the error of making distinctions between this and that? Wang Po, by realizing that though you eat the whole day through, no single grain has passed your lips, and that a day's journey has not taken you a single step forward. Also, by uniformly abstaining from such notions as self and other, do not permit the events of your daily lives to bind you, but never withdraw yourselves from them. Avoid the error of thinking in terms of past, present, and future. The past has not gone, the present is a fleeting moment, the future is yet to come. Which doesn't mean that if one builds a house, one mustn't think of the future or plan. These are practical matters. What he's talking about is our psychological wanting to become something, wanting to be somebody, or dreading what will happen to us when we get old, when we may die. Not we may die, we will die. It's the only guarantee we have. Only thing we can be absolutely sure of. He says, when you practice meditation, stay perfectly tranquil and do not permit the least movement of your minds to disturb you. This alone is what is called liberation. Be diligent, be diligent. These excerpts are taken from the bulletin issued by the Krishnamurti Foundation of America. It's a special issue, spring-summer '86. It came out after Krishnamurti's death in February. This was the last talk given on January 4th, 1986 in Madras, India. Will you kindly participate in what the speaker is talking about? Will you not only follow it, but together participate in it? Not just think about it or casually pay attention to it. One or two things must be made very clear. This is not a personality cult. The speaker has an abomination of all that. Everything he is saying is contradicted if you personally worship an individual or make him into a god. What is important is to listen to what he has to say, share it, not only to listen but actually to participate in what he is saying. We have talked about life, the very complexity of life, the beginning of life. What is life? What is the origin of all this? The marvelous earth, the lovely evening, and the early morning sun, the rivers, the valleys, the mountains, and the glory of the land, which is being despoiled. If you say the origin of all this is God, then it's finished. Then you can trot along quite happily because you've solved the problem. But if you begin to question, doubt, as one should, all gods, all gurus, if you begin to question all that man has put together through a long evolution down the corridors of history, you will find this question asked: what is the beginning? What is the origin? How has all this come about? I hope you're asking this question. Don't just listen to the speaker, but share it, tear it to pieces. Don't please accept anything he says. He's not your guru. He's not your leader. He's not your helper. That is the platform. That is the beginning of this talk. This is a very serious talk, and unless your brain is actually active, one is afraid that you won't be able to follow. It would be useless for you and for the speaker to listen to a lot of words. But if we could together take a very long journey, not in terms of time, not in terms of belief or conclusions or theories, but examining very carefully the way of our lives, fear, uncertainty, insecurity, and all the inventions that man has made, including the extraordinary computers. If we take a long journey into this, where are we at the end of 2 million years? Where are we going? Not as some theory, not what some wretched book says, however holy it is, but where are we all going? And where have we begun? They're both related to each other. Where we are going and where we began. The beginning may be the ending. Don't agree, find out. There may be no beginning and no ending, and we're going to investigate into that together. From the beginning of time right down to the present day, man has always thought in terms of religion. What is religion? Man has always sought something more than this world. Men worship the stars, the suns, the moons, and their own creations. There has been tremendous endeavor, effort, energy spent on ancient temples, mosques, and the churches, of course. They have spent tremendous energy on this. What is the spirit of man that has sought something beyond the world, the daily agony, the travail, work, going to the factory, to the office, and climbing the ladder of success, making money, trying to impress people, trying to command? Are you agreeing to this? It is a fact whether you agree or not. They're all seeking power in some form. They want to be at the center of things, in Delhi or here or in other places. They want to be there. We're asking, what is religion? What has made man give enormous treasures to a temple? What made him do all this? What was the energy that was given to all this? Was it fear? Was it seeking a reward from heaven, or whatever you like to call it? Was seeking a reward the origin? You want a reward, you want something in exchange. You pray 3 or 5 times a day and you hope in return some entity will give you something. From a refrigerator to a car to a better wife or better husband. Or you wait for grace, something that you can hope for, that you can cling to. This has been the history of all religions. God and money are always together. The Catholic Church has tremendous treasures. You have it here too, various temples, puja and worship, and all that triviality, all that is really nonsense. We're trying to find out by inquiring very, very deeply what religion is. It is obviously not all this money-making stuff. We're asking, what is that which is nameless, which is the supreme intelligence, which has no relationship with all our prayers, with all our gods, with all our temples, mosques, churches? That's all man-made. Any intelligent man must put all that aside and not become cynical, not become merely skeptical, but really have an inquiring brain, a brain that's active, a brain that inquires into everything, not only the outside world. Have we got a brain that is inquiring into its own thoughts? into its own consciousness, into its own pains, sufferings, all the rest of it. Have we got such a brain? Skipping some paragraphs. We have also to inquire, this is a very serious subject, don't agree or disagree, just listen, into what is creation. Not the creation of a baby, that's very simple, or the creation of a new something or other. Invention is totally different from creation. Invention is based on knowledge. The engineers can improve the jet. The improvement is based on knowledge, and the invention is also based on knowledge. So we must separate invention from creation. This requires your total energy, your capacity to penetrate. So what is creation? So what is life? Life in the tree, life in the little grass, life not what scientists invent, but the beginning of life. Life, this thing that lives. You may kill it, but it's still there in the other. Don't agree or disagree, but see that we're inquiring into the origin of life. We're going to inquire into the absolute, something that's really marvelous. It's not a reward. You can't take it home and use it. What is meditation to you? What is meditation? How can one explain a meditation that has no measurement, that has no achievement, that does not say, I'm this, but I'll become that, that being God or super angel? Is there a meditation which has nothing to do with will? An energy that says, I must meditate. Is there a meditation which has nothing to do with effort at all? The speaker says, there is. You don't have to accept it. He may be talking nonsense, but he sees logically that the ordinary meditation is self-hypnosis, deceiving oneself. And when you stop deceiving, stop all that mechanical process, is there a different kind of meditation? And unfortunately, the speaker says, yes. You can't get at it through effort, through giving all your energy to something. It is something that has to be absolutely silent. First of all, begin very humbly, very, very humbly, and therefore very gently, and therefore no pushing, driving, saying, I must do this. It requires a tremendous sense not only of aloneness, but a sense, I mustn't describe it to you because then you'll go off on descriptions. If I describe it, the description is not the real. The description of the moon is not the moon. And the painting of the Himalayas is not the Himalayas. So we'll stop describing. It's for you to play with or not to play with it, going your own way with your own peculiar achievements through meditation, reward and all the rest of it. So in meditation, which is absolutely no effort, no achievement, no thinking, the brain is quiet. Not made quiet by will, by intention, by conclusion and all that nonsense. It is quiet. And being quiet, it has infinite space. Are you waiting for me to explore? So is your brain ever quiet? I'm asking you. Your brain is thinking, fearing, thinking of your office work, of your family, what they will do, your sons and daughters. Thinking, which is time and thought. Is your brain ever quiet? Not made quiet by drugs and by whiskey and various forms of drugging yourself. You drug yourself when you believe. You drug yourself and say, yes, this is perfectly right, the Buddha has said that, therefore it must be right. You're drugging yourself all the time. Therefore you have no energy of that kind that demands the penetration of something immense. So we're going now back to find out what creation is. What is creation? It has nothing to do with invention. What is creation, the origin, the beginning? What is life? Tell me what you think of it. What is life? Not going to the office and all the rest of it, sex and children, or no children, but sex and so on and so on and so on. What is a life? What gives life to that blade of grass in the cement? What is life in us? Not all the things that we go through, power, position, prestige, fame, or no fame, but shame. That's not life. That's part of our mishandling of life. But what is life? Why are you listening to me? What makes you, if you're listening at all, listen to the man? What is the motive behind your listening? What do you want? What's your desire? Behind the desire, there's a motive. So what is desire? Desire is part of sensation, isn't it? I see this beautiful clock or ugly clock, it's a sensation. The seeing brings about a sensation. From that sensation, thought comes and makes an image of it. That is, I see the clock rather nice, I would like to have it. The sensation of seeing, then thought coming and making an image of that sensation. At that moment, desire is born. It's very simple. Is there a brain, your brain, which is not muddied up, muddied by environment, by tradition, by society, and all the rest of it? What is the origin of life? Are you waiting for me to answer it? This is much too serious a subject for you to play with, because we're trying to inquire into something that has no name, no end. I can kill that bird. There's another bird. I can kill all birds. There are too many of them in the world. So we are inquiring into what makes a bird. What is creation behind all this? Are you waiting for me to describe it, to go into it? You want me to go into it? Why? From the audience to understand what creation is. Why do you ask that? Because I asked? No description can ever describe the origin. The origin is nameless. The origin is absolutely quiet. It's not worrying about making noise. Creation is something that is most holy. That's the most sacred thing in life. And if you have made a mess of your life, change it. Change it today, not tomorrow. If you're uncertain, find out why and be certain. If your thinking is not straight, think straight, logically. Unless all that is prepared, all that is settled, you can't enter into this world, into the world of creation. It ends. This is the last talk. Do you want to sit quietly together for a while? All right, sirs, sit quietly for a while. May we get up and go now? We will end here for today.